I didn't realize how much of what I was calling normal was actually harming me. In this podcast, I expose my life, the distortions I spent years living in and mistaking for who I was. I invite you to confront what you've normalized and choose differently, so you can build a reality you fall in love with. Today in Undistorted Self, normal is a tricky word. A lot of the things are considered normal, familiar, common, typical. But that doesn't mean they're good for you, they're helping you, or it's meant to be that way. No. And that's where the harm lies. Because you see it everywhere, either in your life or outside of you, different things. So you think, that's probably how it's supposed to be. Probably that's what it is. Even though that it might hurt you, or it might not make sense, or it feels unfair, or something doesn't feel right about it. But it's so common, it's everywhere, that why would you go against it? Things become normal with a combination of time and repetition. So the more something happens in your life or outside of you, it becomes normalized because it's familiar. You've already used to it, and more time passes. And that causes adaptation. You start to adapt to that reality, to that thing happening. And adaptation is tricky because it makes you accept a version of reality or come into terms with that version and then protect it, even though it might be hurting you. Normal can come from what has been normalized in your life. Doesn't mean that outside of you it's like happening everywhere, but it might be happening way too much to you, so you've come to accept it as if you're condemned to live that reality or to suffer that thing. Or it might have not happened to you much, but you see it everywhere, so when it does happen to you, maybe one time or two, you think, okay, a lot of people go through toxic relationships. A lot of people have dysfunctional families. A lot of people have lost their jobs. And you start to gather evidence of other people that have faced that which you're facing. And instead of trying to see like, okay, let me break this apart and seeing what terms this is actually harming me or what terms this is wrong, what can I do to change it, you just accept it. You might not do anything about it. You just think, okay, more people are going through this, more people have already accepted this, more people have solved this, or more people have said this about this, then this must be it. And it's very dangerous to not question things that happen in your life, to just let things go. Sometimes you can even adapt to things, and it's not that they stop feeling wrong to you, you just stop fighting them because you feel like you can't do anything about it. So you might as well just cope with it. Even though that every time it happens, it might hurt you. So there's many things I've normalized. And I've slowly been normalizing and not caring about what is normal, but asking what is actually true. Because normal does not mean safe, does not mean healthy, or truthful. It's just familiar and repetition. That's it. I remember that I grew up with parents that never apologized. They might hurt you, say something ugly, and there was never an apology. There was no accountability. They just went back to normal, and they expected you to continue, just go back to normal yourself. And I hated it. It hurt me every single time, and I would literally get punished when I didn't want to go back to normal without an apology. And that was the rule, the hidden rule. It was always the same. And it never stopped getting me angry. It never stopped hurting. But I had to accept it. There wasn't anything I could do, definitely not at the time. And I hadn't realized how that, like the lack of accountability I grew up with, would affect me entirely in my entire life. For me, it was the normal that I stopped expecting apologies from anyone. People would harm me in multiple ways, and I've barely received any apologies, and I never expected it. And even though it hurt, and I might mention it, I would let a lot slide. A lot slide. Because I was used to it. I was so used to it that I accepted it. I would think, okay, I said it, I mentioned it, we can continue. I never considered, these people cannot say sorry, these people are not being accountable, their actions are not changing, that means it's probably going to be repeating, they're not concerned about how they're hurting me, maybe I shouldn't be too close to these people. And I gave multiple opportunities when I shouldn't have. And not as ultimatums, I just didn't even realize I was doing it. Because when you consider something normal, it lowers your internal alarm. You've come so into terms with it, you've adapted and accepted that it's become one of those rules, underlying rules that in which you function by. And you stop questioning it. You stop seeing when someone doesn't say sorry, when someone it's not accountable, you stop noticing. You don't even realize that it's not happening. And you're so used to just getting hurt and nobody changing or doing anything about it that it's okay. It's one more person. But the more you keep that and you don't interrupt that rule and that which you call normal, it will continue happening for the rest of your life. And you'll keep sitting with the hurt over and over and over again because it will never stop hurting until you break the pattern. That's what I had to do. I had to understand what the heck was so normal or common in my life that was doing me so much harm that I wasn't even consciously aware of it. Because these rules, these perspectives, these things you've adapted to are so bottled up in yourself that you don't even know you're adapted to a lot of things. Unless you start seeing all the patterns and start seeing the repetition in different sides of your life, then you start to question and realize how everything is insanely connected and how you've allowed it to continue happening. Because often we use what is familiar and normal as an excuse or justification for actions, which we really shouldn't. But a lot of the times, it's more useful to lie to ourselves and use an excuse that accept the truth. Accept that it's actually something harmful. Because if you feel trapped and you feel like you don't have agency, then it overwhelms you and it's harder to sit with that overwhelm. But remember, you can always choose your next action. And you gotta catch yourself and you're excusing everything that is harming you. I had a very low threshold for what I tolerated, meaning I tolerated a lot of disrespect. And it was normalized for me. So I didn't even know it was disrespect. I didn't even know I was tolerating less than the bare minimum over and over again in my life. Till I finally freaking saw it. And I had to work really hard to start walking away or changing things or saying something to anything that was not only harming me, but was really disrespectful, and I had to slowly keep raising my tolerance bar. An example of accountability, be careful with that, because accountability is not just saying sorry either. There's some that never even say sorry, but accountability requires real ownership of one's action and change that follows that on ownership. So if you know you hurt someone, know why, what in you made you cause that, and then actually work to change that behavior. That is real accountability. Accountability is not just saying sorry every single time, repeating the exact same hurt, repeating the exact same action, and just saying sorry, and yeah, you're apologizing. So yeah, you're accountable. No, those sorries are just bandages. Real change in that action is real accountability. It's real ownership. So I'm saying this in case your bar is as low as mine was and a sorry would suffice, when in reality, you required someone to actually change the actions. Eventually, you'll get tired of it. When we become so familiar with things that are so harmful, even the meanings of words start getting distorted. What I mean is, you start excusing things and using the wrong words. For example, because you see everywhere that every family is dysfunctional in their own way, you excuse the dysfunction in yours. Because it's normal. That is family. Family is dysfunctional. That's not true. That really is not true. Family should not be dysfunctional. If people actually grew individually, it wouldn't be dysfunctional. But you just accept it and act like if that is family. Love. A lot of the times, love is used as an excuse. But I love you, so you have to stay. No. You can love someone or something very much and still walk away. Love doesn't mean access, endless access. It doesn't mean endless loyalty. It doesn't mean endless anything. Loving something doesn't tie you to any behavior, to anything. That's not love. Any obligation is not love. A lot of the things that happen that are unfair have been so normalized that it's just excused like, oh, that's how it is. It's just unfair. And again, nothing changes. Same with hurtful actions, or when something hurts a lot, it's part of the process. It's always part of the process. Like we are in this endless process in life, and it's just part of it. You'll magically get over it. That's nothing magically gets over. Time is not a magical healer. No. Time will not do anything for you except age you biologically. That's it. That's all that time does. You choose what you do with that time. So if you want to heal, if you want to release some pain, you have to do that. Time will not do it for you. And if you think that time will, you just normalize the whole let's bury it deeper. Because the longer time passes, the more you do, the more that things accumulate, and the pain and everything that you haven't addressed just keeps getting buried. It never leaves. It's always there. And then you'll pass it on, generation, till someone eventually does actually excavate and wants to stop it. The normal cannot be an endless excuse. The normal is a lazy excuse to not look at the truth, to not really accept what is hurting you. and realize that it requires you to change something. That's how a lot of what hurts you actually survives. A lot of what hurts you will never change and will forever survive as long as you keep excusing it, calling it familiar or normal. And not only what hurts you, what hurts others. If we see it be something being done outside of us over and over again, all the world right now, there's so many things that are so wrong that are happening, but are normal, are part of life. So we look the other way. As long as we keep looking the other way, just so we can cope with the reality better, the more we accept it, the more that we make it even more familiar, more common, more fine. When it's not, we need to interrupt that pattern. We need to interrupt what we call normal. If we don't do that, nobody will, and life will continue being exactly the same. And we'll keep excusing all our pain and burying it deeper and deeper. I've normalized way too many things in my life that thankfully I also know enough that familiar doesn't mean good. And now I don't judge something or rate something based on how normal it is. I do it based on, is it harming me? Is it safe? What is it actually doing? It's more on let's say a harm scale. And based on what actually feels true to me. So not what I look outside that they tell me it's true. No. If that doesn't feel true, it's not true. Remember, there's too much outside that is not right. It's not working in your favor. So you need to be discerning a lot. That's the biggest tool I've been working on. So I'm gonna end this with a question. What have you been calling normal that is actually hurting you?